Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn about IELTS Writing Task 1. Our lesson is going to be based on a table. Now, if you're going to be sitting for the general training test, then your writing task 1 is going to be a letter. However, if you're going to be sitting for the academic IELTS test, then your writing task 1 is going to be writing a report that is based on a chart, for example, a table, a pie chart, a graph, and so on. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to write the body paragraphs for your writing task 1. I have already uploaded a video on how to write the introduction and the overview for this particular table. So I'm going to recommend that after you have watched this video, then watch the video that is about how to write an introduction and an overview of this particular table. Remember, when it comes to writing task 1, you're supposed to write 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph is supposed to be the introduction. The second paragraph is supposed to be the overview. After that, you're supposed to write 2 more paragraphs. That is body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. So once you have received your question on your writing task, the very first thing that you should do is try and understand the data. Read the information that IELTS has provided you with. That is going to help you to understand the data. In our case, the information is the table gives information about consumer spending on different items in 5 different countries in 2018. So the table is going to provide us with details about 5 countries in regards to how much they spent on different items. And when we look at our table, those countries are Sweden, Belgium, Croatia, France, and Spain. And the items that we are talking about, the items that these countries have spent their money on are phones, tablets, and laptops. Okay? So once you have looked at the data, and when you're looking at the data, it's always very important, look at the highest figures for each specific item. For example, you can see that in regards to the phones, you have Spain taking the lead at 31.23%. And then you can see Sweden is second at 27.61%. But when it comes to the phones, you can see that France has the lowest at 16.20%. And then you do the same for the tablets. Which country has the highest percentage? And that is Spain once more, 7.64%. Followed by Croatia, and the list is France with 3.31%. And then you look at the laptops. You see that Croatia has the least percentage with 1.88%. And then you have Spain once more that has 4.36%, taking the lead once more. So when you look at the data, try and always look at it in terms of the highest and the lowest. That gives you already some ideas for your key features when it comes to your overview, when it comes to writing the overview. Okay, I discussed more about that in the previous video about how to write the introduction and the overview. Now, let's look at how do you write paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. How do you decide what you're going to put in each paragraph? The answer to that question is you have to look at the data items and you have to divide that into two. In our case, we have phones, tablets, and laptops. So I'm going to divide those items into two. In the first paragraph, I'm going to talk about phones and laptops. And in the last paragraph, I'm going to talk about tablets. Can you guess the reason why I chose to combine phones and tablets? Or rather, phones and laptops in the first paragraph. Can you guess the reason why? Look at the percentages. Look at the percentages of the phones and then look at the percentages of the laptops. Now, what have you noticed? What you have noticed is that they are opposites. The percentages for the phones are very high for each country compared to the percentages for the laptops in all the countries. Okay? Because you remember when it comes to writing your body paragraphs, it's all about comparing. You have to compare the items. So in the first paragraph, you can pick the highest and the lowest. Okay, and in the last paragraph, I picked the tablets. I decided to write about tablets in the next paragraph because it is, if you look at it, it's in the middle. So phones and laptops are opposites when it comes to the percentages, and tablets are right in the middle. So that's how you decide on what you're going to put in each paragraph. You have to look at the data, you have to look at the items that are provided in the chart. In our case, it is a table, and then you have to divide the items into two. And then you write about one item, one of the categories for your first paragraph, and the other category, you write that in your second body paragraph. So let us see how to do that. So in our body paragraph 1, we are going to be comparing phones and laptops. So we start straight away by saying, in regards to phones, Spain spent the most at 31.23%. Then now we have to think about another country. The expenditure of Sweden was also high, that is 27.1%, compared to Belgium, which spent the least at 15.32%. So I started with the country that has the highest. And then I moved on to the country that has the second highest percentage, and that is Sweden at 27.61%. And then I brought in the third country using the word compared to, and that is Belgium, which spent the least at 15.32%. So in that sentence, I have the highest percentage belonging to Spain. I have the second highest percentage belonging to Sweden, and then I have the least belonging to Belgium. So I have been able to compare those three countries in terms of how much money they spend on phones. And you notice for each country, I have to provide the percentage. Okay, that is extremely important. Now let's move on to the next sentence. So we have talked about phones. And let's move on now to the next sentence. Croatia and France paid out 19.81% and 16.20% respectively. So when it comes to phones, I have talked about Spain, which spend the most, followed by Sweden, followed by Belgium, which spend the least. But I have also mentioned the other countries. Croatia paid out 19.81%, and we have France that paid 16.20%, and I have used the word respectively. Respectively means that the first percentage goes to the first country that you mentioned. In that case, it was 19.81% belonging to Croatia. And the second one is 16.20% and it belongs to France. So the word respectively is a very good word to use for your writing task 1. So I'm now done with the phones. I'm now going to move on to the laptops. And I can now use the word on the other hand, okay, which gives me a perfect chance to compare them, because remember, I picked phones because they have the highest and laptops, they have the least. That's why I combine them together so that they can give me the chance to compare them in my body paragraph 1. So, on the other hand, the lowest expenditure was on laptops, okay, which was below 5% in all the countries. If you look at all the countries, the laptops, they have the lowest expenditure. Sweden has 2.32%. Belgium has 3.26%. Croatia has 1.88%. France has 3.21%, and Spain has 4.36%. You notice all those percentages are below 5%. That's why I said, on the other hand, the lowest expenditure was on laptops, which was below 5% in all the countries. So that is also a very good way of describing the data when you're writing your report, okay? Now, after that, then I have to give specific examples. It's not enough to say that all the countries spend below 5%. I have to explain, I have to provide the details. So Spain gave out 4.36% on laptop purchases, which was double the total spending by Croatia at 1.88%. Okay, so in that case, I have got a chance to compare two countries, because remember, this is the idea behind your writing task. You have to compare and contrast things. You notice the very first point when I talked about phones, I compared different countries. I compared Spain to Belgium. Spain spent the most and Belgium spent the least. And then now when it comes to laptops, I have pointed out that Spain gave out 4.36%, which was double the total spending by Croatia at only 1.88%. So I've been able to compare those two, because Croatia spent half as much as Spain gave out on laptop purchases, okay? So that is body paragraph 1. I have been able to talk about phones, I have been able to talk about laptops, and I've been able to compare, okay? Now let's move on to body paragraph 2. So in body paragraph 2, I'm going to talk about tablets. So I begin off once more. In terms of tablets, remember in the previous paragraph I introduced the item I was going to be in regards to phones. So this time I change it up and I start with, in terms of tablets, Spain took the lead at 7.64%, followed by Croatia at 6.90%, compared to France, who spent a half of that at 3.31%. So I'm comparing how much money, or the percentage for, I'm comparing the percentages for Spain, Croatia, and France in regards to tablets. So in those three countries, Spain took the lead. So Spain was at the top. Taking the lead means it was the first at 7.64%. And number two, it was followed by Croatia at 6.90%. Okay? Compared to France, who spent a half of that at 3.31%. Okay? So spend a half of that. All right? Then I move on to the next. So I've talked about tablets in regards to three countries. I've compared three countries. I have provided the evidence with all the percentages. And now I'm aiming at kind of concluding my writing task. Okay, so I concluded by saying overall, consumers spend the highest amount of money on phones, followed by tablets, and the least favorite purchase was laptops. So based on my analysis in paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, I have arrived at the conclusion that overall consumers spend the highest amount of money on phones, followed by tablets, and the least favorite purchase was laptops. Now, so the idea behind writing paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 is that you have to divide the data, you have to divide the items that are in the table into some kind of logical order to give you an opportunity to compare and contrast. Now, this brings me to the last section of our lesson, where I'm going to review the key points in my body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2 that you should also copy to ensure that you pass your writing task 1 with a very high band. Number 1, use expressions such as in regards to, in terms of, to introduce the items that you want to compare and contrast in each paragraph. Okay? Number 2, use comparative and contrastive phrases. Use phrases that give you a chance to compare and contrast. Like, for example, compared to, okay? Also, use superlatives and comparatives. Like, for example, spend the most, spend the least, okay? The lowest expenditure, the highest expenditure, okay? Double the total spending, took the lead, okay? The highest amount of money, the least favorite, all these words, least, highest, okay? Took the lead, lowest, highest, all these words are comparative and superlatives that give you a chance to compare and contrast things. The next tip, ensure that try and use linking words to connect your ideas together. I started off with in regards to. I also used also, okay, and, respectively. On the other hand, overall, in terms of, all those are linking words that give me the chance to be able to join my ideas together as I compare and contrast them. The next tip is ensure that you provide figures and numbers to support every single claim that you make. Okay, write the percentages, write the numbers. Every single claim that you make, you have to justify that with the figures. And as you can see, you can put the figures in brackets or you can write them directly. For example, in regards to phones, Spain spent the most at 31.23%. Or you can say the expenditure of Sweden was also high, and then you put the percentage in brackets. And the next tip is ensure that you use the correct tense. Most of the times, body paragraphs 1 and body paragraphs 2, we write them in the past tense. If you look at all the words that I have written in red, they are all verbs, and all these verbs are in the past tense. Spain, spent. Sweden, was. Okay? Paid out. Gave out. Took. All these verbs followed by, followed, compared to. All these verbs are in the past tense. Okay? And the final tip, use your punctuation correctly. Okay? Use your punctuation correctly. For example, in regards to phones, comma, in terms of tablets, comma, okay? Use your full stops and punctuation marks and commas correctly, okay? Now, this brings me to the last section of our lesson. Remember, your writing task 1 should be 150 words, but you're allowed to write 170 to 190 words. You won't get penalized if you write more words, but you will lose marks if you write less than 150 words. But do not try and write more than 190 words. The reason being is you only have 20 minutes to write your task 1. 20 minutes. It's not a lot of time, okay? Now, also try and interchange your words. Don't use the same word a lot. Like you notice, I replaced the word spent with paid out, and then I said gave out, okay? So try and interchange your words, okay? So that you can also get a lot of marks for vocabulary, okay? Now, if you found this lesson useful, if you learned anything from this lesson, then be kind, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this video on all your social media platforms. And the most important thing, do not forget to watch the previous video on writing task 1 based on this particular table, where I have taught you how to write the introductory paragraph and the overview paragraph. Because remember, your writing task 1 should have 4 paragraphs. First, the introduction. Number 2, the overview. Number 3, body paragraph 1. And number 4, body paragraph 2. So watch the other video on how to write the introduction and how to write the overview. And then once you combine that with this video on how to write the body paragraph 1 and how to write the body paragraph 2 based on this particular table, then you will have a complete lesson and you can practice and practice, okay? Now, if you're going to be sitting for your IELTS writing task in the near future, in the very near future, I wish you all the best, okay? Remember, practice makes perfect. You have a few videos that you can watch on IELTS Writing Task 1 from my channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to write the questions in the comment section. And after you've watched this video, give me some feedback, write a comment, okay? Now, thank you very much, everyone, and see you in our next lesson. Bye bye.